I've never smoked marijuana, which most people's question is, that's weird, why not? You know, I never have. I haven't been curious to try it. But what I do recognize is, you know, a broken status quo when I see it. And the current, so the only reason I mentioned mine not having smoked is, if a young person came to me and said, PG, should I smoke weed? My answer would be to them, you know, no, I personally wouldn't encourage you to do that. But what I also know is that this current status of things is broken in a number of ways. And so the current system, brutal drug dealers and cartels are making billions of dollars on money that could be fixing our roads and our bridges and our streets, right? So that's one. Two, you brought it up, Daryl, is you know, denying people access to palliative care. I mean, I've talked with young people who suffer from epilepsy or, you know, folks with cancer, Alzheimer's. I think the medicinal palliative care option should absolutely be there. And then the third thing, this matters a lot to me. I mean, you know, I represent a city that's half white and half black, more or less, is the uneven application of justice, where, and I don't know the data for Lorain, but in Cuyahoga County, if you happen to be dark-skinned, you are, you know, it's either 4 or 8 times more likely to be incarcerated for personal possession. I mean, that's so the uneven application of justice is wrong. So for me, it's not at all saying, hey folks, go out there and start smoking weed. It's saying we cannot be afraid of, when our laws are broken, fixing them and trying to move forward with something better. So those are my reasons why. You know, getting to 12 immediately and pushing to 15 in a phased period soon after that. And I'll say that, you know, for me, a couple things in the minimum wage. One, part of the promise of our country, folks that are making the minimum wage, they don't have their hand out, right? These are people that are waking up early, you know, catching the early bus, sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs. If you go to work and you put in a 40-hour work week, you should not be left living in poverty. And that's part of this, I feel like, the social contract of this country. The other piece is that I feel like often folks want to mislead on. After the recession, unfortunately, a lot of good sort of middle-income jobs went away that I hope will come back, but we'll see. But for the time being, they've been replaced by lower-income service sector jobs. So a lot of the time you'll hear people say, well, no, the minimum wage, it's just high school students who are flipping burgers for the summer in their first job. I mean, I can take you all into a McDonald's that I go to in Cincinnati. The person on the other side of the counter looks like my grandmother. You know, I mean, it's not just a high school kid making some spare bucks. So, one, I think there's a fundamental promise that if you put in a full work week, an honest day's work deserves a full day's pay. I will also say the minimum wage is not, it doesn't cure current sort of inequities with our economy. So I support a pretty, you know, sweeping range from a livable minimum wage to equal pay for equal work, expanded child care assistance, raising the threshold for the salary threshold for overtime pay, so more people have access to that. You know, where we take expanding the earned income tax credit, which Ronald Reagan himself actually described as the greatest anti-poverty program that's ever existed, where there are going to be tax cuts rather than giving them to those who need them least, targeting middle and lower income folks, and saying, because look, I mean, as you all know, close to 70% of our economy is driven by consumer spending, the sort of, you know, proverbial, you know, washer, dryer, car, television. If you have a lot of money, you know, God bless you, you know, you can go out and buy what you need to, right? But if you put money back in the pockets of folks that don't have as much, so that they can then go out and do that spending, that ends up being not just good for the individual, but good for the economy as a whole. So making sure that we are targeting tax cuts in the right direction. So I think a livable minimum wage is huge, but it's also should be part of a broader overall, you know, economic portfolio.